Hi, and welcome to yet another edition of Ask Miss Judes. As usual, I hope you're taking good care of yourself and enjoying life as God gives it. Today, I wanted to share very briefly on what I consider a new discovery. So I've called it Wow, it makes sense. Um, I wanted to be really creative and work this out so that you find out what it is at the end. I don't know if I'll be good at this, but we'll try. And I'll anticipate your feedback to let me know if this works. Now, what is it that makes sense? Many years ago, as a much younger woman, I had um, several health challenges. It was like going from one cycle of illness to another, up to the point that in my final year of my bachelor's degree, I literally went from the hospital to write my final exams. And it just was one thing after another. Eventually, I encountered one of my lecturers at university who talked to me about a philosophy then. It was called moral rearmament, and the principles were that you will have to examine your life against four standards, and he called them absolute standards of honesty, purity, unselfishness, and love. And that if you gauge yourself against those four standards, you will, your spirit, God will speak to you where you need it to make amends. It didn't make too much sense to me at the time, but I tried the experiment. And when I did, some really deep revelations came to me. One of which was that I needed to forgive my father because um, there were relationships, family relationships at that time that really weren't working for us. And I had taken it on in such a way that it was beginning to affect my health. I did not know at the time. So I'm just saying this so that what makes sense will make sense when I get there. Okay? So fast forward many years later. So the action I had to take at that point was to now go home and apologize to my dad in presence of my mom, and I told him everything that I had done that wasn't right, but I was on a new path, and it surprised him because I was the poster child. I was the best child anybody could have. He didn't even know that I had hatred in my heart towards him for this long saga. Anyway, years later, as I continued to deal with forgiveness and letting things go, I realized that some of the health challenges that I was experiencing became less and less severe and less frequent. Oftentimes, my husband would tease me that since he came into my life that I was no longer ill. But what was it? It was unforgiveness. And I wanted to, to do this in a way that is approachable and appreciated and doable. So, forgiveness and healing, in my experience, are co travelers. When they travel well together, the body that occupies them or the mind that facilitates them is a sweeter, happier place to be. Now, an analogy that clinched it for me, which is the it that kind of unraveled it recently, was I was listening to someone who was talking about her own healing journey of forgiveness. And she gave an example. She said, if you're going on the road and someone hits you, for example, or someone attacks you violently, and the person has run away, would you lie down by the roadside and say, this person must come back and unhurt me for me to be well? No. You will go, you will call 911 or you will find yourself to the hospital. So the onus of forgiveness rests with us, not with the person who committed the offense. And that cast my mind back to those early days where I was so ill. And at one point, one of the doctors had said to my mom, I must have been about 17 or 18 at the time, oh, never mind. As she grows older, she'll grow out of it. And I really felt offended. I'm like, what does he think he's talking about? Like, what has this got to do with age? But the older I got and the more I let things go, the more I prioritized my well being, the healthier I felt, the healthier I became. And so when I heard this lady recently talk about how important it is for you, for forgiveness to be your own gift to yourself, not minding whether the person who caused the offense takes responsibility or comes back to do anything, you owe it to yourself to move on. Forgiveness is for your benefit, not the benefit of the offender. And a Bible passage that came to my mind is Colossians 3, verse 13. And the New Living Translation says, make allowance for each other's faults and forgive anyone who offends you. Remember, the Lord forgave you, so you must forgive others as well. Now, why that sounds really preachy, because in my experience, I have seen the freedom, the joy of forgiveness. I want to offer to you, especially if you are on a spiritual journey of wanting to walk more closely with God, that you take the time in quiet to just take a little piece of paper, write absolute honesty, absolute purity, absolute love, absolute unselfishness, and just reflect on your own life. Where is it that you could be a better person? And you will be amazed as you find those spots where you need to make the difference and take the steps that you need to get to this better version of you that will be much nicer for everyone in your sphere of influence to interface with, that you would wonder if you've ever held to unforgiveness, why you wasted so much time. On the episode with my mom a few episodes ago, she had also shared how she just naturally forgives everyone because she wants to please God. And by God's grace, her life is so sweet and light and free. And because I have her example and a few others, and I have experienced it myself, I want to offer you today that it makes sense. Forgiveness makes sense. Choosing joy makes sense. Choosing to be honest, to be unselfish, to be loving, and to be pure makes sense. And they are absolute standards because we can never get there, but they are standards by which we can measure our lives and aspire to live a more fruitful, godly, exciting life. So, it makes sense. Take care of yourself, like, share, and subscribe. And I hope that you will share your own experiences for the benefit of our community. And if you'd rather send an email, please do so to askmissjudz@gmail.com. So that's askmzjudz@gmail.com. I look forward to coming your way again.